Welcome to Nothing But Net. I'm Dave Rudin. We got a busy FCIAC boys basketball menu for today. Just to show you how fluid the season has been, I published my mid-season report on Wednesday, and I'm already to make changes on it, including the big one with a player I think I omitted from the first team. And I know my co-host has uh, interesting pick for his player of the year so far. But before we get to those, I think we have to start with the battle of the unbeaten teams in FCIAC play that took place last night as we record this on Sunday afternoon, and reaffirmed Ridgefield is the team to beat. Came away with a 59-56 win at Fairfield Warde in a game that was definitely not as close as the final score would indicate. A lot to talk about there, and joining me is Mike Walsh. Mike, how you doing?
Good, Dave. Good. Again, an exciting week, and a lot of things are becoming clearer now as we head toward the mid-season.
Yeah, I think we know who the favorites are. I think we're on a countdown watch to February 15th when Ridgefield and Trumbull meet. And I think the second plot line is going to be a whole bunch of teams that right now look pretty even that are going to be battling for the final six playoff spots. But why don't we start off with Ridgefield and Fairfield Ward? I was there. You watched it at home. What did you think?
Well, I mean, my impressions were that Ridgefield was the experienced team, and Ward, I think, has some good young talent, and of course they have Jack Kramer. In that game, they tended to shoot a lot more threes and getting the ball to Kramer, and that may have hurt them a little bit. But let's face it, Richfield is experienced. They lost their big guy because he was home ill, Nick Skenga, and I think that Peter, uh, what's Peter's last name? I'm
Come on,
sorry.
I want you got Skanga. We're gonna go. I'll tell you what, Ridgefield really keeps you tongue tied. They have the longest last names in FCIAC history. Zapowski,
Zukowski, and also
Zapowski.
they may have the best string in the last 7 years as far as winning championships, but they obviously do. But Andrew was able to do that. I mean, his big man is homesick, and the second big man comes in and had double figures. Had to be in rebounds. I didn't get the total.
Zapowski was definitely a double double. I know it was 13 points. I'm not sure how many rebounds, but because Ridgefield just killed Ward on the offensive glass.
Yeah, and really, when you looked at the game, as usual, Alistair Walsh, and again, to his credit, he's not related to me. He really is the glue that makes that team go. And they go through him offensively, defensively. He just is the kind of player that refuses to lose. The kind of player that, as a coach, you love to see on your team. And I think Andrew was very happy with him. And they just have the pieces that seem to fit together. The only thing that concerned me in watching the game, and I think, you told me this, they had 13 out of 29 from the free throw line. When you get in a game, it's going to be a tight game, and I think they will have a couple of those as they head toward the FCI title. You got to make free throws. And I'm sure that maybe Andrew called a practice for this morning and they're shooting free throws. But they will improve with that. The thing about it, though, was that this was their first real test on the road uh, in the league. And both teams being undefeated. And Ward has always been a place that, Richfield has trouble with. But, last night they didn't, and they showed why they're the best team in the FCIAC right now.
I think Ridgefield separates itself from the field with the possible exception of Trumbull for two reasons: defense and depth. Skeng is out, and you bring Sapowski in, and he puts up the kind of double double Skenga would have put up. Alistair Walsh, 21 points, and he really showed his value well, he shows his value all the time, but he sort of took over the game, and actually I got my notes here. Let me get the exact point. But Ward got within 50 to 43 with 4:31 to go. And I don't know if you saw this play. I posted the video with my story, but he's inbounding the ball underneath Ward basket and
That was
trouble
great.
getting it in. And he inbounded the ball off Jack Kramer's back, caught it, scored, was fouled, and turned it into a 3-point play. Next time down court, he scores on a drive. He had 7 points down the stretch, and that really was a big difference there. Uh, Ian Swiatowicz, who was playing with a mask on, he broke his nose last game against Stanford, drawing a charge. He comes up with 12 points, and Coach Drew McClellan went deep into his bench again and brought in 8 or 9 guys, including 1 or 2 that really haven't gotten much playing time in games I've been to before. Uh,
Well,
it's
I,
go ahead.
yeah, I'm just going to say that we kind of forget about Alex Hickey and the role that he plays there, and then the point guard zero, Griffin. I mean, they just do. They have the pieces, and they kind of fit them together. And as a coach, Andrew has done a great job of doing that, and he has done it over the years. So that, like you say, they're the team to beat. I really do think, and I don't want to change the subject, but I think Trumbull has a great chance uh, to beat them. Now, the game on the 15th that comes up, that may be trouble because they're playing in Ridgefield. But on a neutral court, I think either team could win.
Yeah, we'll get to that, but I don't disagree with what you said. Uh, Fairfield Warde showed their youth. I was a little surprised, and a lot of this had to do with Ridgefield's defense. Some didn't, but Skeng is out, and Ward's best player is their center, Jack Kramer, and they really didn't run too much to try to get him the ball. Uh, they're impatient. They have a couple of shooters on the team that need to learn that you don't necessarily take the first available shot, and they'll hit 2 shots and they put up about 3 or 4 air balls. Excuse me, as well. And I'm an old basketball player, and I was sitting close to the baseline, and you're watching these guys stand there, holding their hands out, waiting for the ball, and as soon as they touch it, it's going up. And I think again, they're young players. They're gonna get more poised as things go on, but they need to learn to be more patient. You'll win a game or two, uh, because you're really hot, but it's not a route for sustained success.
Well, let me say this. Um, First of all, when you have a young team and they get behind, and Ridgefield got the lead early, and I think Andrew mentioned that in your column, that getting the lead early was one of their priorities. And once they did, then the younger players on Ward, they decided, we got to get back in this game. And they figured the easiest way to do that is to fire away threes. And that's a common thing that happens, with a young team. It's a hard thing to do when you're down to be patient because you want to get it all back at once. And, I think that's what happened to him in a sense, too. But again, Richfield is experienced. They play defense. I don't think they particularly really shot the ball well in that game. And again, missing the foul shots, that could come back to hurt them. So there is hope for the other 15, 14 teams in the league, although it's becoming more difficult for some of them than others. But looking forward to see how it shakes out.
I want to, and this was my big mistake, and I kind of realized it last night watching him play. I had Alistair Walsh on my second team. He's a first team All-FCIAC player. I have to admit I made a mistake there. To be fair, he was like I had him. It ended up having him sixth. I was deciding between him and one other player, and I kind of let the other player's scoring average blind me in terms of making a decision because number one, I'm not sure what he's averaging, but Alistair Walsh is probably in the high teens. But he just does so much so much for a team that's in first place. And you know, I'm watching him yesterday. I'm saying, boy, I really screwed this up. It wasn't even like a debatable mistake. He definitely should be there. And it was a big week for Ridgefield too, because they started it with a 62-41 win over Stanford, which you know, they basically, Norwalk, Stanford, and Ward, they ran through all the other undefeated teams in league play like like a tank there. And Walsh had 19 against Stanford. So you know, I make mistakes a lot, and I, after watching him, I think sometimes you get so caught up in the fact that Ridgefield is such an ensemble and so many guys contribute. I think that's probably where I really erred on Walsh, is that as much as he's the glue to the team, so many people contribute to their success, and they need those contributions. And like I said, their depth is what makes them so good.
There's no question about it, and there's no question. I think that he certainly is a first team All FCIAC player. But there are also, you know, who would you leave off? And you can't leave. I think you picked five excellent players, and Alistair. So you could have a 16 first team. I know you don't like to do that.
I got blinded in one or two cases on on
Yeah, but
scoring average. You know, and we're gonna get to this later, but we kind of could get into it now. I know we've been talking that you know, just in terms of the the overall depth of the league, and a lot of teams don't have the depth, certainly, that Ridgefield or Trumbull has, that separates them. But you know, looking over the first team, I mean, we have more scorers this year. You look over the top 6, 7 players in the league. If that first team is probably a better first team as a whole than the first teams of the last 4 or 5 years.
well, it's certainly up there with that. You know, there's six excellent players, and there's more than six. I think the league this year has some very quality, good basketball players. Your first team and second team, there's some solid players there.
When's the last
And
time we had this many players scoring over 20 a game?
that's true. And
I don't. It's been a long. That's been a long time. Even in the glory years of the league, there weren't, you know, so many 20-point scorers.
No, exactly. And I think that, you know, when we look at it, you know, last week we were all excited about Jaylen Brown, and rightfully so. Jalen's an exceptional player. If you look at this week, Cam Perkins had a great game against Stanford, 23 points. I mean, he's a great player. And then you have, you know, as you mentioned, Alistair Walsh, who, you know, sometimes gets lost in the shuffle with the success of Ridgefield. Sam Klecko at Staples. He's done a great job. And then, you know, talking about quality people, Ryan Johnson at Trumbull. You know, sometimes you get lost in Trumbull because they have 5 or 6 kids that can play a little bit.
Trumbull has like 5 guys who could be all like second, third teams. There's no superstar on the team, but again, like Ridgefield, an ensemble, and in their 91-63 win over Darien, they had six players in double figures, led by your boy Owen Bull with 17 points. And after the first quarter of that game, Trumbull was up 31-11.
Yeah, Owen Bull's going to make me a soccer fan the way he plays basketball. He's a heck of a
He's a hell
player.
of a soccer player. You
Yeah,
should
not
watch
too
him
bad.
all tape.
You know, the other thing too is in that game, your 3 point guy Joey DeMarco had 9. He had 3 more 3 pointers, so they almost had 7 guys in double figures. But you know, they're the one team, as we talked about before, that could give Ridgefield a little bit of trouble. But the other guys, you know, we didn't mention, there's some really good players, and people should come watch the, well, TJ Wright, for example, at St. Joe's. He must be averaging at least 28 points a game. And he started his team to victories over Norwalk. And in that game, unfortunately, Jaylen Brown got hurt and required stitches, was unable to play the second half. But TJ Wright carried his team to victory there. And then they came back and beat Central, where we had 28 points again, or 26 points. You got some really exciting quality players in the league this year. And they
And
have
you
the
have,
tendency.
I'm gonna interrupt you here, and I'm gonna make the assist because I know you've got your own pick for player of the year right now.
Absolutely, no question. It's close, just like you're close as far as who's going to be on your first team. I think Cam Perkins is player of the year. I mean, here's 6'5" guy. I watched him against Stanford, and every time that he was close, he just give me the ball. And he had a big three to put him up one, and then the score was tied. He banged another three. He made baskets inside. He rebounds. He'll hit the open man, and he's tough defensively. I think that look, I'm not demeaning the other players; they're all very good.
No, that's not a
But
knock on you're praising Perkins. You're not
what does
knocking.
most valuable mean? I mean, if you take Cam Perkins off Danbury, I don't think they're even a 500 team. Of course, that
Same
could
way,
be
so
said.
you could say that about Jalen Brown in Norwalk too.
Yeah, I just
We
as
we
I'm
we we
as
saw
I'm
that
saying
again.
that.
We saw that against Fairfield Ludlow the other night.
Yeah, as I'm saying that, I'm thinking to myself, that's true. And then maybe the other
My
thing.
definition of most valuable player is if you took the guy off the team, which team would be hurt most by the loss of their player?
Well, I think either Danbury or Norwalk and probably St. Joe's. Uh,
I would, I would probably make it. I would Brown or Perkins are probably the Brown and Perkins. EJ Presley at Stanford has the same impact. I think Brown and Perkins are a little above him in terms of the talent level, though not by a lot. Alistair Walsh is the glue to that team, but Ridgefield's still going to the playoffs without him. That's and then
yeah,
that's again, that's not knocking Alistair. That's praising the depth that Ridgefield has.
well, hey, just talking about Presley, if he has a bad game, Stanford's in trouble.
Yeah.
Like against Danbury, he played hard, he played tough. He only came up with 12 points, and they lost. That game was really surprising. I won't get into that in a minute, but I just think that players that we just talked about are really, really important to their team, and they make the other kids around them better, and they make for their team to be have a chance to win. Uh, Again, though, if you look at all those great players we just mentioned, the two teams that, except for Alistair Walsh, you mentioned him obviously, the two teams, Richfield and Trumbull, they're kind of like they have four or five guys that can be qualified as
They
second
don't
or
need a
third
20-point score on that team because so many people can score. I mean,
That's
you look at
exactly right.
Trumbull every night, they have three or four players in double figures, and it comes from a field of six or seven players.
There's no question, and you can't. They all kind of mesh together too. And again, Buddy and my good friend Colin have done a great job as far as developing that team. They're going to be really, really good once they get to March in the playoffs, and I'm excited to see that.
Well, I'm looking forward. I'm counting down the days to Trumbull Ridgefield because really, after that, we're looking at the other storyline is a pack of teams that on any given night can beat each other. Danbury goes to Wilton and loses, and then goes home and beats Stanford. You look at Ward, you look at Wilton, you look at Danbury, you look at Stanford, you look at Staples, and on any given night, those teams can beat each other, and a lot of them haven't played each other. I mean, a couple of the teams we're talking about uh, still looking for really their first quality win. I mean, Stanford, Staples, they're beating teams that they should beat, and they haven't played a lot of the other contenders, but we need to see them beat a good team. Ward beat Trumbull, albeit without Owen Bull, but even without Bull, that's certainly a quality win for Ward. Danbury beating Stanford at home. Wilton starting to show some signs of coming to life. That would be the other thing I changed. Even though Wilton's been maddeningly inconsistent, uh, I left Wilton. I can't believe I did it. And I probably did it because of the influence by the 25-point loss to Trumbull. But yeah, I got to put Wilton back there. They're a top 8 team right now.
Well, Dave, when you look at it, I think 3 through 10, anybody can beat anybody. Home court, I think, has a little bit to do with some of it. For example, I think Danbury's a much better team at home than they are on the road. Probably any of those 10 teams, that's true. But, there are going to be upsets. The one team we haven't mentioned is Ludlow. Now, if you told me at the beginning of the year that John and his team at Ludlow were going to be, what are they, 9-1? Something like that. It's I would have bet against it, but
10
he's
and
done a
2,
great
10
job.
and 2, 6-1.
10-2, 6-1 in the league. Now that granted, they have not played
They got to
a lot
play.
of the best teams.
They have to play literally everybody. So, but you know
Well,
what? They're beating the teams they need to beat to get in. Now we get to
yeah.
see how good they really are.
Well, I think the Mahoney boys are going to show you. I think they'd be have a good chance of making the playoffs. But again, that would be a tremendous accomplishment, in my opinion. But just to show you, though, Staples played the other night against Greenwich, and I watched that game. And I'll tell you, Greenwich was right there with them. They played really tough. I don't think that Staples had their best game, and they pulled it out at the end, but it was a 1 or 2 point game going down the stretch. And, you know, talking about anybody can beat anybody, Greenwich has had not had a lot of success, but they almost beat Staples at Staples. And, uh, and New Canaan, I can't say enough about New Canaan. It would be easy for them to pack it in and start playing 7-on-7 and baseball, whatever they do there. But they haven't quit. They knocked off Greenwich team and got their first FCIAC win, and then came back and scared the heck out of Wilton, who had a big lead. Yeah, you did that game. You saw that. They came within 13. They were down 13, came within 1 point with minutes left to go in the game, and then couldn't hit the shot that needed to get over the hump.
Ryan
But
Luchetta got him to scored 11 points, including their last 7. He got Walton over the finish line there.
right, so what I'm thinking is that any of those teams can beat anybody. Well, the other night, St. Joe's struggled with Central, and if it wasn't for T.J. Wright, who knows what would have happened there. Uh, so I really think the exciting part, and you're looking forward to the 15th of February. I'm looking forward to what happens in between with these other teams as to who's going to, be the number 3 seed, who's going to be the 8th seed, and who's going home and packing it up after the season. So it just, to me, that's exciting. Competition among teams is what makes it happen, and the way the kids play, and the exciting players that are with them. That's what makes it great.
No, well, you're gonna get a lot of that because all these teams really haven't played each other yet. The last few weeks of the season, excuse me, are going to be these 3 through 10s playing each other, and they've been all over the spectrum. I have no idea what to make of Staples anymore. If you told me Staples would be a 3rd or 4th seed, I could see it. They a 7th or 8th seed, I could see it. Uh, that's true for almost all these teams. Ward has the pieces if they can calm down a little bit and the shooters can calm down. I like the pieces that Ward has. They just need to and maybe it'll be the second half of the season. These young guys get their taste a few games. We'll see what Ward learned off of last night because last night was a good learning experience from them. If they calm down, I know 3-point shooting is important to them, but they got to be a little bit more, excuse me, judicious with
Well,
the
get the ball
3-point
inside.
shots. Yeah,
Get the
they
ball inside, go inside out. That kind of makes things a little bit easier. What opens up the 3-point
I
shooters.
they
Ward,
don't do enough of getting the ball to Kramer and letting him kick it out. And Kramer does kick it out. Kramer's not one of those players that once you throw it inside, you don't see it again. But they definitely need to do more of that.
well, as you say, I think they'll learn. I think the other team that has to learn and get better is Stanford. Stanford, talking about ingredients, they do have Elijah Presley, who's obviously a first team player and a great athlete. And now JJ Salvatore has come back from his injuries and his sickness. He only played a second game against Danbury. You could tell he was a little bit rusty. To go with the players that they have before. I think that they can put it together. It's just a question of will they put it together. I was the other thing that I have to say. One other thing on a Danbury game against Stanford, it was a relatively low-scoring game. Danbury pulled it 53-47. Out of those 53, by the way, Cam had 23 of 24, something like that. So he was pretty valuable to the team. But both teams played zone, which is something you don't usually see out of those. Stanford usually a lot of man to man. But again, they're feeling things out and they're trying to find out what the best formula is. I think they had another kid who scored 12, Damian Taylor, and they're going to need people like that. Winchester, I think he's got to step it up a little bit too. But if they do, and Coach Latour gets them all on the same page, they have a chance to really to do something. They could be right in there with the Wards and everybody. They will be right in there with the Wards and everybody else. Can they take the next level and go to the Trumbolls and Ridgefield? They really got to show that. They haven't done that yet.
Yeah, I right now I don't see who's somebody can upset them. Maybe these guys have an off night, but if everybody plays their very best, there's a gap between Ridgefield, Trumbull, and everybody else. If all these teams played their best, Stanford would probably be my pick for the third seed. If every team played to their best of the ability, I probably like Stanford and Ward probably as the other top four teams.
Well, that'll be interesting to see when they play. You can look forward to that date. I don't know when that is,
Who do
but
you who do you who do you like if everybody played assume everybody played consistently their best, who do you like as 3-4?
uh, where's the game?
Just new,
It's
neutral
a neutral
neutral court. You have to
on a neutral court. I take Stanford if things go right, but if it's at Ward, I take Ward. They seem to always play better at their place, except that's why the Ridgefield game was so impressive to me. Ridgefield beating them, but again, Danbury with Cam, I keep coming back to Cam. If they get a little bit of help, they could upset one of those two teams, and so I'd have to put them at 5. Probably Staples at 6, even though they haven't got a quality win yet, but they may. 7 and 8. It's gonna be exciting, Dave. Yeah, I couldn't tell you. I mean,
I'd put Wilton in there.
yeah, I mean, because I think they'll find themselves, and if they're at home, they're going to be
They also
successful.
have a home court advantage that's bigger than most teams.
Yeah, I know. I agree with that, and I don't know why, but in my gut feeling, I keep thinking that Ludlow and the Mahoney boys and John Dale are going to figure it out, and they're going to get the 8th seed. Now, Norwalk and St. Joe's may differ with that, but they already have the tiebreaker over Norwalk, and they still have to play St. Joe's, and all the tough teams. But they could sneak in, and then once you get in the playoffs, anything can happen. Especially if you want to go to Wilton. I mean, if Wilton wins their first game, they're going to play at home. But I think they better get up to a 6th seed to be able to do that, because I'm not so sure that anybody's beating Ridgefield or Trumbull in the first round there, even at
Not
Warde.
sure anybody's beating them in the second round either.
Well, I mean, right now it looks that way, but you never know. As we said before, I wouldn't have picked Staples to get to the finals last year either, and they did. So funny things happen. Looking at the overall picture, though, it'll be interesting to see what happens in these next games, 3 through 8, and again, um, I think Trumbull and I think Ridgefield are the teams to beat, but you don't know. I mean, just say that Ridgefield plays somebody in the semifinals and they go 13 for 29 from the free throw line or whatever. They could lose that game. So anyway, it's just to be sure.
Anybody, I mean, we can always have Villanova beating Georgetown type thing, but
Yeah, but
talent wise, it's a definite 1-2 right now.
yeah,
It's
no question about it.
it's a
And
gap there, and it's the gap is starting to widen.
by the way, we're showing our age talking about Villanova and Georgetown, Patrick Ewing and Harold Jensen and the guys. But that was a long
Harold
time ago.
Jensen from Trumbull.
Absolutely, and so I mean, it just it's exciting to see the other three, and then like you say, so anybody can beat anybody.
Well,
Uh,
I mean, you just look at the standings right now, and you got 10 teams with the worst record being 4-3, and then you have 6 teams that have either one or no wins. So, uh, you like I said, barring anything really strange, I think you have 6 teams that are out of the race right now, and you have 10 for 8 spots.
no, I kind of agree with that. I think we've been talking about that, and I just the other thing I hope, and I wanted to just say, I hope Jalen Brown is healthy, able to play the next couple games. I know they have West Hill, and I think McMahon after that. So they hopefully he's healthy, and we see him at his best. Um,
Apparently,
and
it was a real nasty gash, and I turned that game on, I guess just after it happened, but he needed a lot of stitches. And that's going to be a big storyline too, is how soon he gets back, how he plays after, because obviously to get in the playoffs, they need him back.
Right, exactly. And I think not that West Hill and McMahon are easy, but they can kind of bring him back slowly. I think in those two games. Although McMahon is a rival, I mean, that anything could happen there. The other game I'm looking forward to be honest with you, talking about the eighth seed and Ludlow, is Ward and Ludlow. They play each other, and it's always close. I don't really care if Ludlow had minimal talent. They always gave Ward a hard time. So that's going to be a battle, I think. I don't know where
I'll
they
tell you
play that
what,
game.
Friday, and there are 2 games Saturday. Friday is rivalry day. I'm actually going to go to. I think Ward Ludlow's the best of the rivalry games on Friday. I
No, I
actually
agree. I mean,
you can make a you can make a case. I this year, but with Ridgefield Wilton, I don't know, and that game's a Saturday game, not a Friday game. But which is the better game, the two Fairfield schools or Ridgefield Wilton?
well, right now I think it'd be Ludlow versus Ward because my good friend Joel was all upset because he has to play this Saturday because they have a dance on Friday night and the Ridgefield will refuse to go to Thursday. But maybe that'll be kind of a battle too. I don't know, but
I wasn't
two
going
good.
there. I'll let you go there.
No, whatever. I don't want to get. There was just kind of a little disagreement between the two, so I'm sure Joel will have Wilton pumped up against the Tigers, but the Tigers might have a little bit too much
Yeah,
Wilton.
that game this year is not like it. I mean, it'll be a crazy crowd and everything, but it's a little bit the the and again you can get into the whole when they play each other, throw the records out, and maybe that'll be the case, but the talent levels is a little bit different this year compared to recent seasons.
Where is the game?
Ridgefield.
Well, my pick is still Richfield over Wilton. Sorry, Joel. Even though you're going to
If the
have
game was at
motivation,
Wilton, would you pick Wilton?
they'd have motivation and on their home court.
They're going
Anything
to have
could
motivation on Ridgefield's court too. I don't think Joel's going to have a problem pumping his team up.
happen. Well, but I still think that
If
the
you can't
level of
get if
work.
you can't get Wilton basketball players up to play Ridgefield, you'll never get Wilton basketball players up.
No, you're absolutely right, and I hope it's a good game, and we'll see what happens.
I'm gonna see Joel Tuesday night. I think I'm gonna go. I haven't seen Staples in a couple of weeks, and they play Wilton, and that's just the kind of game that we've been talking about with these teams. Who's going to win that game? All these games are going to be important, especially the way the standings are right now. We're going to have a lot of tie-breaking situations.
There's no question. That's a big game, by the way, for
both of them.
teams. As far as seeding,
They're both four. They're both 4-3 right now in the league.
Exactly, and as we have talked about, if Ridgefield and Trumbull are 1-2 in the league, you really don't want to finish 7th or 8th. Well, you probably do. You want to get in the playoffs, but
you'd rather be 4, 5, 6 than 7 and 8.
Yeah, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're exactly right, and it'll be interesting. That's why those games are going to be tough to battle each other, and I'm really looking forward to it. I don't think Stanford has a tough week. I think they play West Hill, and Berto's done a good job of bringing that team back a little bit, but it's not really a rivalry yet. But soon, who knows?
And again, I make a schedule out of games that I'm considering covering, and not a lot of all the games we talked about right now are pretty much the only games with rivals playing each other, and then next week it really kicks in where we'll have a couple every night. But Mike, always a lot to talk about, and you know what? We'll do this next week, and we'll probably have 2 more guys to put on the first team and 3 more guys to be player of the year.
Could I just say one more thing? It's really helpful, and the coaches have been doing a great job getting those box scores in. They send them to you, and I get them, and I get to see the final results of the scores. So thank you, coaches. Keep it up.
Yep, and those of you who aren't, please do so. But yeah, the box scores, the coaches have been great, and it makes a big difference, and obviously even more so with the podcast helping us stay informed. Well, that's this week's episode of Nothing But Net. Again, I want to thank my co-host Mike Walsh. I want to thank Cooper Boardman for the sound editing, and we'll be back and see you next week.